Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is part one of a two-part comparison taking a look at the Universal Audio time-based effects pedals. Part one is going to be taking a look at the Golden Reverberator, the DelVerb, and the Galaxy. And although we are going to look at delay on between these two, we're primarily going to be looking at reverb because all three of these pedals have reverb, two of them have delay. Part two is going to take the Starlight and replace the Golden. So part two is mostly just going to be looking at the delay between these three pedals. If you want to skip ahead into the comparisons, there's a table of contents below, but I'm going to try to do a quick intro here, basically explaining what I'm shooting for and what questions I'm trying to answer in this video. So looking into the Golden as the reverb choice, and then the Starlight as a great delay choice for really awesome tape delay sounds. That was kind of in my sights for a while, and then they released the DelVerb and the Galaxy, which both of these have reverb and delay in both units. My initial question was, when they came out, is can I get what I would get with, like, if I had the Golden and the Starlight, could I just get the DelVerb and get that much and be happy, or just get the Galaxy and have that much and be happy? So would either of these be a single pedal stand-in for having the Golden and the Starlight? So yeah, spoiler, that is not this pedal. The Galaxy is a fantastic pedal, and honestly, it might just be the one that I keep, but it's a very specific pedal. The app almost gives you, it actually gives you zero control over the sounds that you're getting on the pedal. The app is really just functions for the buttons. So while this pedal is super specific and is not going to be able to do what these two pedals do, then obviously the question shifted. Can the DelVerb handle what the Golden and the Starlight do, and can the DelVerb handle what the Galaxy does? And where are the pitfalls in getting that? Because obviously they wouldn't just release a pedal that's going to say, you don't need to get all these pedals, just get this one and it'll do everything. Obviously, you know, I mean, they're a company, they want to make money, so they're not going to do that. So that's kind of what I wanted to answer with this video is, if you're into these UAfx pedals and you don't want to get all of them, which is most of us, which one is right for you? And that's what I wanted to answer for myself, and I'm going to try to help you to answer that question. That being said, if you have any questions about these pedals that I haven't answered in these videos when you see them, please let me know. If you're curious to know how I'm getting the tones I'm getting, I have all the gear listed below that I'm using in this video. If you're into these kind of videos, please hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. All these things help me to keep making these videos. All right, and before I get any more thoughts in my head, let's get into some tones. So what I wanted to do in this section is use my Space Tone Atomic Junior from Swart, use the reverb on that. It's a fantastic reverb. I've had this amp for many years, and I love the reverb on it. So we're gonna start with the Galaxy for that. So let's just hear the dry sound with no reverb. Here's the Swart reverb. You can hear that nice long tail it has on it. And here's what I dialed up on the Galaxy to be as close as possible. So we'll go over a little bit more in the Galaxy in another section where you can hear exactly what these three dials do to the tone on the Galaxy, but this is as close as I could get. It's maybe even too much. Back to the Swart. So the Swart has a nice blend of dark and bright reverb tones, as I was saying. The Galaxy is really mid-range focused. It does have some lows in there, but it really kind of rolls off the highs on the reverb sound. You don't get a lot of boingy spring sounds in the Galaxy, but it has a really natural sound. It just doesn't do this at all. So the Galaxy's out. Let's go to the Golden. Let's refresh our ears on the Swart. So this is basically as close as I could get. Back to the Swart. So maybe there's a little more complexity in the Swart, and I think the Golden has more like of the boinginess. You can hear a little bit of drip in there, but not much. Golden. Much more drip. And I think in the B tank, like this is the C tank with the decay just about at the middle, pre-delay off. The Swart really comes in right away. You don't get any pre-delay really. The bass and the treble are about even. There's a brightness in the Swart that I really couldn't quite dial in. And I tried to put the mod up a little bit just to get a little bit of the natural kind of haziness of the Swart. Let's go back to like tank B. That actually has a little bit more drip. If we darken that, we might actually be able to get close. Got a lot more lows, and I think the lows come from that tank C. Let's see if we can get a little bit more low happening on tank B. Yeah, it doesn't quite sound as natural. I think tank C really wins, and tank A is even brighter. Yeah, tank A is just not built to do that. So, really, tank C at about these controls seems to do the best job at recreating that Swart reverb on the Golden. Okay, and now for the DelVerb. What I found on the DelVerb, right now you can see we're on the default Spring 65. Now if let's just play that a little bit. You can hear it's way too bright. I found that tank C, because in the Golden we're on tank C, the best thing to do is just look at tank C, because tank A is on the DelVerb is A on this, tank B on the DelVerb is B on this, and then tank C on this is tank C on this. So they really correlate. And then within your DelVerb presets, you have all these different ways you can hear like tank A, a long dark tank A, just a long tank A. The dark ones tend to have the treble rolled off, maybe a little bit more bass. But these are just presets. If you're looking to get what you get on here by using the bass and the treble, you can, and using the decay, you can do that essentially with the DelVerb app. So it's just a little less convenient because you have to go into the app. So let's just go to tank C, and we're going to do long dark. Let's hear that one. I can't remember which one worked best, but that's this. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that's too long. So let's do Spring C stock. Swart. Go back. I mean, that's pretty close. Maybe we'll try Spring C dark. Let's see. Stock dark. To me, that's really, really close. At Spring C stock dark is about equal. Yeah, so they're all pretty close. They're like I said, there's a treble resonance in the Swart that I can't quite dial in on either of these. And it's not surprising. I mean, all you have is treble and bass, so we're not going to be able to really hone that resonant peak in the reverb on the Swart and find it and then boost it. I mean, you could probably do that if you wanted to run this through an EQ and run like a separate wet signal, and then add that into your dry, which is something you can do with the Swart. This is really cool. I've always loved this. If you take the volume and you turn the volume all the way down on the Swart and then play, you just have the reverb. So the reverb is totally independent. If I turn it all the way up, it's totally independent of the volume. So you can really just run this as a reverb tank. You know, if you're running a stereo rig, you can run a dry amp and then just have this one totally wet, and it sounds just awesome. By the way, this is running through a UAfx, so I'm not using live mics in the room, but it's just a great setting on the UAfx that I just think sounds really natural with the Swart. All right, so for that test, the Galaxy doesn't do it. The Golden and the DelVerb both basically get it. But again, you can do pretty much everything right on the face of the Golden. Again, I didn't have to dial into the app at all. The DelVerb, you really need the app, unless you just happen to be on the correct setting for dialing in a reverb. These pedals are booting up now. What we're going to do is we're going to dial in a reverb sound on the Galaxy, and as best as we can, we're going to try to recreate that reverb tone with the Golden and the DelVerb. And the reason we're going to try to do it that way is the Galaxy has a very set and forget kind of reverb. All you really have is the reverb volume and the dwell. So anyway, I thought it would be good to see if we can get the same tones with the Galaxy on the DelVerb and the Golden. Here's the dry tone. All right, and then let's just put in some reverb. Okay, so I find that, like with the delay, I really like having the input volume cranked all the way, and then I usually like the dwell about here and the reverb about there. Let's see what that is. It's pretty subtle. Yeah, that's good. All right, so we're gonna try to get that reverb tone on the Golden first. So that is the Spring 65. Obviously this is a spring reverb on this. So this is the Spring 65 on the Golden. This is tank A, and we've got pretty much everything right up the middle minus the pre-delay. So we can just check out the different tanks. That one's a little bit longer, a little smoother maybe. That one's got more depth to it. It's kind of got a very low frequency spring, kind of like this one. You can hear this has a lot more high, it's got more decay. We're going to turn the decay down. That's probably about good. Decay is about good. Now you can hear this has more treble, so we're just going to cut the treble. Let's cut it all the way and see what happens. That's really close, maybe less decay. That's really close. This one has a little bit of modulation at the end. You can hear the pitch of the reverb go up. Take a listen. It goes up a tiny bit. So let's put a little bit of modulation on this one. Again. A little less low. This has a little bit more mid-range honk to it, but I mean, this is pretty much, I think, as close as you're going to get. If we, so let's try it on the DelVerb now. So I've got on my, on the DelVerb, I have a screen capture running, so you can see what I'm doing. So let's switch over into the spring, and right now it's on the default spring. So let's take a listen to that. We're going to turn down the mix on the delay, just hear the reverb on this. So here's our Galaxy. Oops. Here's our Galaxy. Here's our Golden. Here's our DelVerb. Obviously much brighter. That's the default spring. Now if we go for, so the one that I found that I thought was, let's just go through the dark ones, like the short dark. That's because this is a very short reverb. It's kind of dark. So the short dark spring A. That's not quite it. Still too bright. Way too bright, right? Let's go for, let's try short dark on spring B, which is theoretically like this spring B. It's closer. Still too bright. Let's go for spring C, short dark. It's a little brighter, but it's pretty close. I mean, yeah. To me, they both do it pretty well, but the Golden is a little bit more versatile in that way. And I didn't have to go into the app on the Golden to get this. I did have to obviously get into the app for the DelVerb. All right, so another thing that I really wanted to try to do for this video is dial in a delay sound with reverb that I really love on this Galaxy. It's kind of my go-to sound, and see if I could dial it in on the DelVerb to be as close to it as possible. And basically what I really like to do with the Galaxy is drive the input volume all the way up and the tape age all the way up. The input volume doesn't really break up and distort on this with most guitars, single coils anyway. I sort of wish it did, but it really has a cool quality either way. So, and the tape age, I like to drive that all the way up too. That doesn't get completely messed up, actually, like this one does. When this has certain delays have a tape age component to the mod, and those get really messed up in a cool way. They have like dropouts and all kinds of stuff like that. The Galaxy is a little bit more conservative, but it really has a nice agey quality to it. You get some of the wow and flutter, and it's really nice. So the other thing I really like to do, and this is key for me, is I like to decrease the bass and the treble, just cut them all the way on the EQ of the, and this is just on the feedback. It doesn't affect your dry signal at all. So, you know, input and tape age all the way up and bass and treble all the way down. And that leaves you with just this kind of mid-range, almost telephone-ish quality that really puts the delay in the background and lets the dry signal be up in the front. So I'm not going to go hunting around on this like I did for just the reverb. I already did that, but what I will say is it's hard to do with the DelVerb, because whereas this has the bass and treble cut, or you can boost them, it's nice to boost them, it just gets more in the forefront. This does not really have any controls to cut or boost treble or bass. The color on the Precision, the color does have a treble cutting effect. So that's what the color is on the Precision side. On the Echoplex on the top, the color is, it basically drives the tape heads on the repeats. It doesn't drive your dry sound. And on the Memory Man, it does the same thing. It drives the repeats. And there's one or two that do something a little different, but the only thing that actually cuts treble or bass is the Precision, and it only cuts treble. So it's kind of a weird workaround, and what you have to do to get this to cut treble or bass is go into the app and find those different presets that actually cut bass and treble, which there are two. So let's see what we can get matching the Galaxy with the DelVerb. Okay, so for the Galaxy, I have the reverb dialed in about here. And of course, if I match that with the DelVerb, which we've already done, it's about there. Yeah. The DelVerb might have just a touch more. I mean, those are pretty close. This has a little bit more mid-range honk, a little bit more vintage mid-range than DelVerb. The DelVerb is a little bit more lush, but we'll work with it because that's basically all you can get with the DelVerb, but it's pretty close. So now for the delay. Let's just listen to the Galaxy delay. All right, and then I've dialed in a sound with the Echoplex on the DelVerb, and I'll kind of go through what I did with that. It's close-ish, right? So if you have the reverb and everything on at the same time, that's pretty close, right? So you can hear that the DelVerb has a little bit more brightness on the attack of the feedback repeats than the Galaxy does. And you know, you could with the Galaxy just bring up, like, here we go, and then let's bring up on the Galaxy the treble response. And that's a little closer. The other difference I'm hearing, the main difference, is the tape age. You can really get. So that's that, and then this is a little bit cleaner, right? So this is the Dirty Heads preset on the DelVerb. There's a page on the UA website that basically tells you what all of the different presets in the app for the DelVerb. But just to compare a little bit, like the Dirty Heads versus Bright Spank, you really get a lot of top end on the transient in that one. Broken Bottom. So that one's cool because it takes away all the low end. Compare that to the Galaxy. Man, the Galaxy really has a lot of mod. Let's just go back to Dirty Heads. And let's get the mod a little bit higher. Let's see what we got over here. That's not bad. Yeah, I mean, you can instantly hear that this just has more top end, and that's on the one that actually cuts the treble and the bass. Let's see, let's go to the default Echoplex. You can hear it has the low end and the high end in there. See that? Sometimes the tape age, what I love about this is the tape age is not consistent. It's not like every time you play it's the same. Sometimes you play and it's really messed up, and sometimes it's a little bit cleaner. So it really has a human quality to it, the fact that it's not always the same. Whereas here, I feel like we're getting a lot of the sameness in there. Let's just crank up the tape age all the way. See, it's just kind of like a chorus. And this way, all the way over to the right is different than, it's a different effect than it is going like up here. So that's actually not bad, but it's still kind of chorusy. Yeah, so we're not getting super close if you just listen to the delay, but if you just dial it in with the reverb and the delay, it's pretty close, right? This still has more of a lush sound. If we could bring this down a little bit. And this tends to have just a, I don't know, there's something more vintage about it. It has the mid-range quality just really screams vintage to me. And this just has a more lush, modern sound to it, it seems. Okay, so now let's try to match the Galaxy with that precision I was talking about, because that precision delay really has something cool to it that, oddly enough, the Echoplex can't quite do. And it's the fact that this color knob is basically taking out the high end, which you can just really get it nice and dry, mid-rangey sounding. So let's see. I got my settings here that I found. It was kind of tough to find these, so all right, cool. So that is the precision delay. Let's hear the Galaxy. Yeah, maybe a little bit more mix on this. I mean, that's pretty close. I feel like that is way closer than the Echoplex setting on this was able to get. Let's hear it with just the delay. So. That's really close. And then let's see what we can do. Let's get something that'll really kind of trip the tape aid. Maybe a little bit more feedback. And let's hear that mod up a little more. Yeah, it just turns into like a... turns into a little bit of a mess. But to me, that's really close between the DelVerb with that. Galaxy. Oops. Yeah. So to me, the precision delay on this, it pretty much nails that specific sound I'm trying to get. And let's just try one other thing. Let's give it a little bit more treble. And you notice when you give this more treble, you can hear more of the tape age, because I think a lot of that wow and flutter exists in the high frequencies, and if you cut those out, you're not going to hear as much of it. So you're going to hear more of that, which is another reason why I like to drive this, because if I'm cutting the treble all the way, I want to hear as much tape age as possible. But, so if we have that, now, that's a little darker. So we're just bringing in that, I wonder if we turn it all the way up. Oh yeah, you can really hear all those highs. It's actually... yeah, so you can hear the highs come in more when you bring this up, so you can kind of match that a little bit better. And I wonder if it's the kind of thing where... oh yeah, you really hear that a lot. Yeah, so very impressed with the precision. I really wasn't expecting that to be able to match the Galaxy. And just so you can hear a few of the other presets with the DelVerb. This is on the high and low pass feedback there. And if we cut this all the way, again. Yeah, so a little more mid-rangey here, but this is really, it's getting it. Now, if we just go to the default one, that's not bad either. It's a little cleaner. Oh, see, there's that tape age. It just kicks in. Yeah, so even the default precision is good because, you know, there's your high end up. You can really hear it come back. And let's just try a couple other ones. High cut feedback, you're probably going to hear lows. Yeah, that's pretty close too. So a lot of these just work. And you can try to get one of these like stereo ping pong high cuts. I was hoping that might be able to get some of, like, if you turn on the other tape heads, but that's just way too complex for what that's trying to do with the stereo ping pong. So anyway, that's trying to recreate Galaxy sounds with DelVerb. Very, very cool. Very impressive pedal here. I think that, you know, the biggest issue is when you're doing this, you've got to go into the app and find exactly what you want. And then the other issue is you can't switch between any of the presets. Like if you're on your spring reverb and you want to go to the hall reverb, you actually have to bend down and do it. There's no preset function at all on the pedal. You can't turn presets on and off. You'd have to have your app open. So again, that's if you're the kind of person who, if you're going to use this in the studio and you have time to pull up the app and do everything on here, that's great. If you're going to be playing live and you need all that functionality right away without glitches, it's going to be tough because the Bluetooth is a little bit finicky. Sometimes it just drops it and you don't know why. I've been lucky with these videos. Sometimes it drops it a couple times when I'm trying to make a video. So yeah, if you're the kind of person who's just using this in the studio and you've got time to kind of plunk around and get your favorite sounds, this is a great way to go. I mean, it's just, I really want to do a comparison of what you can do with the Starlight versus the DelVerb, and I actually have a Starlight on the way, and that'll be a whole other video because this video is going to be kind of long enough as it is. So look out for that. We're going to take the DelVerb, Galaxy, and Starlight and just do a bunch of delay stuff. Yeah, we'll get into a little bit more of the different presets on here in this video as well. All right, so hopefully you found at least a few bits and pieces of this video that were helpful. I know it was a really long video, but there was a lot I wanted to cover, and I just wanted to do it in 2 parts. So I think to lead off, the DelVerb is extremely versatile, and it sounds great. There's a lot of caveats there, though, because it's frustrating that you have to use the app to do what you want with it. And the app was pretty solid, but things happen when you're connected with Bluetooth, and sometimes you might drop and then you wouldn't be able to do what you wanted. So you do have like the 3 different reverbs you can choose in there and just leave it set. And then you have the 3 different delays you can choose, which is a lot, but I feel like like for instance, I wouldn't use the plate very much, like the middle setting on the reverb, the plate. So I wish I could do a spring in the top position, a spring in the middle position, and then a different hall verb on the bottom or something like that. I wish that you could kind of pick and choose what you wanted to use in each position. Like it didn't have to be spring, plate, and hall like that. And likewise, the same thing on the delay side. I feel like for all that the DelVerb could do versatility-wise, it didn't have the interaction factor that a lot of people, including myself, really like with gear. You know, you have your spring reverbs and you have all these presets, and that's pretty much all you can do. And you have all these delays. I guess the delays you can really make your own with the time and the color and the mod. The delays are a lot more, but we'll get more into that next time. But to contrast, like with the Golden, you find you know, Spring Tank C is my favorite. And then I've got all the parameters I can tweak to my liking. And it feels like I'm interacting with the gear, which, I don't know, I just feel like that kind of frees you up creatively. Even if it's not completely your own, you can feel like it's completely your own. Whereas with DelVerb, it feels like you're just playing somebody else's preset, which you are. And I went back to the DelVerb so many times. Like I would, you know, I'd mess with it and then I would decide, no, this isn't the one I want to keep. And then later on I'd be thinking about it, like, man, those sounds are so good. I would listen back and the sounds are so good listening back. But then I go back and it's just not as fun to use. So that one is definitely not a keeper for me, but it just does so many cool things that it's got to be the right pedal for somebody out there. The Galaxy, by contrast, is, like I said in the beginning, it's very much the opposite. It does a very specific thing, or a very specific two things, delay and reverb, but you can tweak those very much to your own liking. And I didn't get into this in this video. I'll get into it in the next. But you can, with the Galaxy, make the right button on the pedal. If you hold it down, it increases the feedback until the thing starts feeding back into itself and self-oscillating. You can do things like that. And there's one other thing where I think you can, when you do that, it self-oscillates and it makes the speed of the reverb go up a lot too, or it changes that. And it sounds amazing. I'm blown away with how good and how real everything sounds. I know, like, real is such a weird word, but it sounds like tape to me. It's inconsistent. The inconsistencies are inconsistent. It's very unpredictable, which to me just makes it feel more human. It surprises me in cool ways, and it kind of changes what I'm doing the way it will surprise me. And the Golden is just fantastic. It's my favorite reverb that I've ever tried. And back to the Galaxy really quick. The reverb on the Galaxy is cool. It's got its own thing, but it's not my go-to reverb. If I'm looking for a certain type of very subtle, vintagey sounding reverb that's not very hi-fi, the Galaxy reverb is great. And then to contrast, the Golden just has all the lush reverbs you could want, and it can pretty much duplicate that Galaxy reverb, so it does get those kind of nasty old rusty spring kind of sounds. One thing that I haven't mentioned when we're talking about the Golden and the DelVerb is, and this is kind of a plus for the DelVerb, but it's very frustrating as an owner of the Golden, a lot of the presets that you can use with the DelVerb, not all of them are available for the Golden. And certain things like a vibrato style mod on the DelVerb, you know, the mod that is already there, you can't change it, is a vibrato on the reverb. And that would be really cool to have on the Golden. And I honestly don't understand why it's not accessible. Maybe it's not a part of the hardware of the unit. So just so you know, some of them, they do translate over, like the Dusty Trails preset that is on the DelVerb that is just fantastic. And that's actually available on the Golden as well. The Fractal Forest one, that's really cool. It's a very nice ambient reverb. That's available on the Golden. And once you get those on the Golden, then you can tweak them the way you like them. So that's very cool about the Golden. I don't see myself getting rid of that one anytime soon. So, you know, between the Golden and the Galaxy, I feel like there's just so much ground I can cover with delays and reverbs. All right, so I think that's about it for this video. Please tune in for part 2, where we're going to take the Starlight and really put it back to back with the DelVerb and the Galaxy. The Golden won't be in the next video because we're not really dealing with the reverbs. We're just going to talk about delays. And just a little bit of a spoiler, the Starlight does some stuff that has nothing to do with delay and everything to do with a preamp type sound. And we're going to get into that with the Starlight. And it's really an amazing pedal. So please check that out. There hasn't been a whole lot of coverage on the preamp sections of the Starlight that can be activated with the app. I'm going to get into that. And we'll shoot that out against the DelVerb, and some really cool things about the DelVerb that the Starlight cannot do. They really made sure that there's not too much overlap between each pedal. It comes down to your preference, and it comes down to how much money you want to have wrapped up in your pedal board. So in UA stuff. Anyway, so thanks for checking out the video, and let me know what you thought in the comments. If you have any questions or anything or recommendations for gear to check out, let me know, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.